Hey everyone, it's Josh coming to you with a little video message. I wanted to pop in here real quick and tell you about something really exciting that just happened to me. I just got out of therapy, and I'm pretty excited to tell you about it. I know last month, May, was Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to get on here and talk about therapy and mental health awareness and all of that stuff, but I didn't get a chance to. And it seems appropriate because it's June, and May shouldn't be the only month that we're talking about mental health awareness, and why we should take it into consideration. June being Pride Month, these things seem to go hand in hand. So I want to tell you about why this is so important to me. Over the course of my work with Spirit, what has dawned on me, or what has been given as a perspective, is humans, you and me, really complicated creatures. And I like to think of us as algebra equations. Algebra equations, if you remember algebra, and I hated it, algebra was, a system where you had variables, A and X and Y, and they meant different things. You and I are the sum of our parts. We are made up of all the things that we're made up of course, and what happens to us and our heritage and how we're raised in our society. For instance, if I had your father and you had mine, we'd be different people. Or if I had your best friend in 6th grade, you had mine, we'd be different people. If you're a woman and I had your gender and you had mine, we would be different people. Where you're raised, what religion you're brought up in, what political systems that you're raised to believe in, those all have an incredible effect on us. The variables that seem to have a great effect on us are these myths that we're born into. We're born into these stories, right? You might have heard of what's called the rugged individual. In America, we have this idea of the rugged individual. They're tough, they don't need any help. My father is very much a rugged individual. It frustrates me, My mom works really hard. She's got wonderful insurance, and my dad isn't somebody who really uses it because he's tough. And, these guys that won't go and get help until they absolutely have no choice. That's rugged individualism. It's that John Wayne, Marlboro Man sort of mentality. I'm tough, I don't need any help. Even James Dean. Kind of bug out here. One of the other myths that we're born into is something that I like to call the blessed individual. The blessed individual. For instance, advertising. If you'd ever heard the phrase, maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline, that's going to show you that maybe you're the blessed individual, maybe you're not. Advertising is built to create a sense of inadequacy. So we're supposed to feel bad because we don't have something, right? Or we're not beautiful enough, or we don't have the right car, or something like that. We're born into that from the very beginning. Even religion, to a great degree. If you don't have our absolution, if you don't have our acceptance, the idea of excommunication from the church, like you're excommunicated, you're not getting into heaven, right? There's a lot of bullshit that we're born into. The myth of the blessed individual. You're blessed, right? Maybe you're born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. The myth of the rugged individual. Maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's Marlboro, right? Now, if you're not rugged, or you're not beautiful and blessed, what does that make you? The cursed individual, right? Yeah. The gods must not love me. God must not like me. Karma must not love me, or I must be paying for something from a past life. A lot of us say that. If you're not blessed, if you're not rugged, that doesn't mean you're cursed. That's not what that means. It just means that you were born with a certain set of variables. Now, let's talk about therapy. I walk into therapy, and I bring a journal, and I see it as a strategy session, because what I do is I'll walk into therapy and I go, okay, what are the things that happened to me? What are the variables that got put into my equation? And what are the variables that I was born with? This kind of ties into Pride Month. I'm a gay man that was born gay. I had no choice about it. Absolutely no choice about it. I am 6'7". That's not anything I had a choice about. I was not given a choice about that. There are all sorts of things that I wasn't given a choice about. I'm not going to blame myself for them. I'm not going to go, oh, God must hate me because I was born gay, right? There's a lot of people that would like me to think that. I refuse to. I'm not going to believe their stories. It pains me to see a world full of people who blame themselves for variables in their equation that they had no choice over, right? Had no choice over. The other frustrating thing is to see people not take responsibility for the variables they do have control over. You know, a lot of people will shift blame. They won't take responsibility for themselves or their role in their own bullshit, right? It's my parents' fault. It's my religion's fault. It's my country's fault. It's my genetics' fault, right? Well, to a certain degree, you do have a lot of say in a lot of those variables. For instance, my mental health. I was born into this world with a certain set of mental attributes, right? Over time, trauma, grief, pain, bullshit in this world are going to mess with my mental health. For a long time, I was like, well, I don't need any help, right? I was that rugged individual because I was like, well, I'm blessed. I was given these attributes. I must be able to just handle them. If I was given gifts, I must have the shoulders to bear them, right? Partially true, right? We are strong individuals. Our mind is strong. Our body is strong. And yet we need help. We need to train it and we need to heal it. When I first started walking into my therapist's office, I felt shame. I'm not afraid to admit that. I'm like, oh my gosh, what if somebody sees me walking in? I did not feel that for very long. You know why? Because I would not feel ashamed walking into the gym, right? Everybody wants to make their bodies better and more beautiful and more fit and what have you. Why do we feel shame about going to a therapist? Because it's the same thing, right? Our minds need training. Our bodies need training. They need to be nurtured and healed because things will happen to them. Reality will happen to them, and we should take care of those things. Just because you seek mental health wellness or balance doesn't mean you're not mentally healthy. Just because I go to the gym doesn't mean I'm unhealthy. It just means I need to work on my health, right? Therapy and mental health is an incredible tool for all of us, especially for folks who deal with secondary trauma. In my position, I deal with a lot of secondary trauma. I deal with a lot of people who hurt and a lot of people who have pain and grief. Immersing myself in their grief causes me grief and causes me pain. If you're a nurse, if you're a teacher, hell, if you're just paying attention to anybody else's trauma, you're dealing with secondary trauma. I can only encourage you to go seek help. Now, mental health is something that may be a privilege to some. I see a therapist that offers me a sliding scale, so she makes it affordable for me. If you have insurance, go see a therapist. If you have no insurance, go see a therapist. Remember, you're strong, but we need help. Your body is strong, your mind is strong, but we need help. When I say I go in and I see it as a strategy session, that's what I do. I go in and I have this journal and I'm like, all right, this is the stuff that's happening to me. This is the stuff I was born with. This is the stuff that happened to me. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, what can I do to fix this? What can I do to nurture myself around it? And even if my therapist doesn't say a lot to me while I'm in those sessions, they give me this opportunity to sit there and help myself walk through it, right? So if you don't have a therapist, journal. If you don't want to go see a therapist, sit down with a friend and talk about your issues, talk about your problems. It's going to be so helpful. You're just working with the variables that you were given and the variables in your equation of which you're being served and dealing with in this world. And there is no shame in getting help around that. And there's no shame going to exercise. And in fact, the most rugged individual is the one who realizes they're not so rugged, right? The strongest individual is the one that reaches out for help. I encourage you to get some sort of help. Because getting help doesn't mean you're weak or broken. Doesn't mean you're cursed. It means you acknowledge reality and acknowledge the situations that you're born into. The gay thing. I didn't have a choice about it. I did have a choice to not believe the world and the religions that would call me an abomination because of it. So, remember, strength is truly being gentle with ourselves. and giving ourselves the healing that we need.